Sam Klein was briskly walking down the busy lower Manhattan streets, humming his favorite tune. It was the biggest day of his career as an artist, which, so far, has seen nothing but struggle. He was selected in one of the largest art exhibits in New York, and perhaps in the world. It was called the Whitney Annual. Finally, Sam thought. Finally, people have recognized my work. He laughed to himself. The newspaper boy screamed the headlines. Apparently, some guy named Hitler was bringing the world to an end. The same story could be heard faintly through the radios in the stores lining up the busy street. But all of these were worthless noise to Sam, as he was finally going to get the recognition he deserves. 40 years, he made a small calculation in his mind through the noise and chatter. It took me 40 years of hard work to get what I deserve. I can't believe it. Clearly, it's the best day of my life. He turned the corner into 94 McDougal Street. The little Whitney townhouse was looming ahead. Sam reached the building, told the lady at the reception his name, and immediately he was overwhelmed. People he never saw before rushed in to congratulate him on his work. People showered over the top praises on his revolutionary work. It was like a dream within a dream. Is this even happening? Sam thought. He had to almost fight off some of these people to reach the room where his work was exhibited. Anyway, when he reached the room, he looked around, but he could not see his work. Where is it? He thought to himself. The map is showing this is the right room, but he could not see his familiar canvas anywhere. And then he saw something. It was so shocking, so unbelievable, it almost blew the air out of his lungs for a few seconds. There it was, his name printed in bold letters. And beside it was, well, it was definitely not his canvas. But it was also something that Sam recognized instantly. When he did, Sam's stomach turned. He felt dizzy and nauseated. The best day of his life soon turned into his worst nightmare. But what is it that Sam saw that he found so repulsive? It was not his work, but what was it that he could recognize in an instant and was so repugnant it would make him want to vomit? To find out, stay tuned till the end of this video. I promise the twist in the end will surprise you. If you love art and if you love stories, you're in the right place. Welcome to Mr. and Mrs. Arty. Here, Mrs. Arty will create a stunning painting for you to enjoy, and to fill the silence, I, Mr. Arty, will narrate one of my favorite stories. If you like our content, tap the like and subscribe buttons with your paintbrush, but make sure you use the backside so your phone and computer stays nice and clean. Today's story is adapted from a short story by one of the giants of Bengali literature and cinema, Satyajit Ray. If you're unfamiliar with this Oscar-winning director and writer, please check out his work. You're truly missing out on some of the unforgettable classics. We'll put some links in the description below. The original story was due to Satyajit Ray, but we have given it a little bit of twist in our own way. The original story was set in 1940s Bengal, but we have recast it in the 1940s, but in lower Manhattan, New York. Hope you enjoy it. And now, back to the story. Sam Klein was sitting in his dark, dingy studio in lower Manhattan, putting in the final brushstrokes of a painting which he thought was the best work of his life. He has put his heart and soul into it. After all, this was the painting he intended to submit in the Whitney Annual, which was a major art competition in the early 1940s. Whitney allowed artists to submit three of their best works. Sam did not want to submit anything else. The painting he finished was his masterpiece, and he did not want to jeopardize his chances by submitting some of his other works, which now, in the context, truly felt subpar. Sam stretched, put down his apron and brush, and looked outside. The New York street he could view from his battered windows glimmered in dim lights, dark and wet as usual. He was tired. He has been painting non-stop for 12 hours. His arm was heavy. He was struggling to keep his eyes open. He had to wait a bit for the paint to dry before he could pack. It was the last day to submit artwork in the Whitney Annual. I will shut my eyes for a few minutes while the paint dries, Sam thought. It's only 6 a.m. There's still plenty of time. Sam looked around his studio, lit a cigarette, and picked up the magazine which had the call for artists ad for the Whitney Annual. But clearly he was not reading it, as he was holding it upside down. He looked around his studio. He has long been working here. For how long? 20 years, maybe? The walls are stained with smoke and paint splatters. The lone light bulb swayed from the ceiling. All its light has been designed to focus onto a sole easel in the middle of the room, and hence the rest of the room was pretty dark. A single radiator hissed in the corner, but it never quite kept the chill away. Coffee cups and empty bottles were scattered on the floor, along with an ashtray overflowing with cigarette butts. Paint rags, stiff with oil, lie in heaps, giving off a faint, sour smell. A cracked mirror sits against the wall, reflecting the artist's gaunt face, ragged with stubble, which is long overdue for a shave. Outside, New York is grey and wet, the streets shining from the rain. From the window, the skyline looks distant and indifferent. The city doesn't care if I make it or not, Sam thought. But I can feel it. This will definitely be my lucky break. I mean, look at this painting. It's mesmerizing. He congratulated himself. Sam drifted away in his thoughts. It's true he has been painting for a long time, but he was also stubborn. He was the so called true realistic figurative painter. He had a strong distaste for the abstract revolution that the art world was so quickly embracing. Sam just could not understand the big deal with the stuff that is being hailed as art these days. I mean, that guy named Pollock at Peggy Guggenheim's place painted something called the mural. It looked to him like someone had just shaken a can of house paint across the canvas until it drowned. People called it alive, electric. Sam just saw a mess. How is this art? He was always puzzled. And then there was Mark Rothko who created these multiforms, all of these red and ochre slabs that made him feel like he was staring at a brick wall. It was not art, he thought. There's this other guy, Barnett Newman, who had just drawn a thin stripe running down the middle, a zip they called it. And the critics acted like it was scripture. In contrast, Sam thought of the faces he had painted that month. For example, a Dockworker with broken knuckles, or a girl clutching a chipped teacup, or the old man on Rivington Street with his sad, noble eyes. These were real, he thought. They meant something, but they were repeatedly rejected. Old fashioned, the critic said, as a reason for rejection. But Sam was determined. He was not going to sell himself to these new trends, and he would stick to what he believed was true art. Sam looked back at his painting, and his eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Sam had picked one of the classics, the famous sleepwalking scene from Macbeth, the Somnambulist, it was famously called. I will drown these lunatics going around as artists and critics with true beauty, Sam thought to himself. This fad has to go away someday. Someday, people will realize that this weird work of Rothko, Pollock, and so on are just gimmicks, standing on thin sheet of ice with no foundation or beauty. Sam had dozed off, lost in his thoughts, and was startled as he woke up from the sound of the magazine which he had dropped onto the floor. Oh dear God, he exclaimed. How long have I been asleep? Sam's studio was dark and damp as usual, but when he looked outside, he could see the sun bright and strong, and bouncing off the city walls. He swiftly looked around to his clock. It was almost 1 p.m. The latest time to submit the painting was 3 p.m. Sam was almost out of time, so he got up, scrambled through the dark and messy studio to look for a brown sheet of paper to cover his painting with. He fumbled with the mess around his painting, the brushes, the colors, the rags he used to wipe brushes and blot excess paints, the palette, and finally when he finished wrapping, he quickly left the building and started to walk very fast towards the Whitney townhouse, dragging the brown package with him, which contained the best work of his life. Thankfully he did arrive in time. Sam heaved a sigh of relief as he handed over the brown package. At least I'll know the results in a couple of days, Sam thought to himself. He adjusted his torn hat and ragged coat and strutted back towards his home, zigzagging through the noise and the crowd. A couple of days later, a letter came in his mail. It said he was selected. Not only this, he even won an award, Emerging Artists Award, it was called. It came with a hefty cash prize of $300. It was a lot in the 1940s. Sam was obviously elated. I mean, it was his dream come true. On the day of the exhibit, he quickly put on the best jacket and hat he owned, ran through the smell of diesel and coal towards Whitney. He went through the crowds and congratulations and started looking around for the somnambulist. Where is it? He thought. Where is the pale and weightless figure drifting through the room which he spent hours painting? He looked around frantically, but he could not find it. He started looking closely at the names, and lo and behold, there it was. Gleaming in the gallery light was his name in bold letters, Sam Klein, and beside it on the pedestal was his work. There it was, hanging, the piece of art that had finally helped him achieve his dream. Whitney accepts 3 artworks for submission, Sam thought. So when I was packing my somnambulist, I must have mistakenly packed it as well. Whitney must have thought this was an artwork I submitted and did not pick the painting, but picked this one instead. Right above the podium, there hung the rock hard, jagged piece of rag Sam used while painting the somnambulist. All the spotlight was on it, and the critics over the moon for this revolutionary piece of art, hailing it as the work that will change the art world forever.